3 nights for 6 people at the Djuma Private Game Reserve. I absolutely love everything WildEarth has to offer. I find the guides extremely knowledgeable and will go above and beyond to ensure a great safari experience. I will be taking my husband and family from the UK to experience this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. One of the main reasons I joined the WildEarth Explorer program was for the fireside chats and also to win an incredible prize, which I am so fortunate to win and incredibly happy. I would like to thank WildEarth for this amazing prize and cannot wait to meet the team.
I got into wildlife filmmaking because of a passion for nature and a notion that I could make a difference. Helping others fall in love with nature brings meaning to what I do. It's also a lot of fun. A couple of times per week we receive some very heartfelt messages from viewers telling us about how WildEarth has made a difference in their life, whether it's helped them through a difficult period or simply helped them to reconnect with nature. I think that's why we do what we do.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the dawn here in Djuma. That we experienced a small lightning storm last night with some rain, but it seems to have gone, and we've got a fresh canvas of tracks to follow up with on this morning. And it's not only myself out and about, we have Tswalu out as well on Djuma with Johanna with Paul this morning. We've got Trico and Gert in andBeyond and Ngala. Mike and Niels are on foot in Eco Training Prrivate, and Juan and BK out in Tswalu Kalahari. And on that note, everybody, I'd like to welcome you on board your live African safari. Good morning, everybody. We're just taking it easy this morning. Came out of camp. A fresh canvas of soil after the rain last night presented two amazing honey badger tracks. So I just thought I'd climb on top here and see if I can maybe see where they've gotten to, but so far no luck. Hello everyone, my name is Steve, joined over there by Paul on camera, and we're very excited as always to have you with us. Look at this beautiful morning. Look at this beautiful day. It's 20 degrees Celsius. I'm wearing a jacket. It actually feels quite fresh. I think that's because of the moisture. 68 degrees Fahrenheit. And as always, if you would like to get in touch with us, we'd love to hear from you using the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter. Throw your questions in on the YouTube chat stream. If you're under the age of 18, get your parents or guardians to send us an email at kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Alternatively, you can also go over to the live safari page on the website. Submit your questions there. Okay, so it is a wonderful morning. I think we better get up and start doing some work. And Paul, what do you think? Don't fall down, don't fall down. Okay, we survived. Nice to sit on top of termite mounds and feel like one of the animals for a moment. Now, you might ask me, what are you talking about, fresh canvas? Well, last night, everybody, at about 9 o'clock, it rained. Not for very long, but what the rain does is the rain just wipes away the ground. So any animal that steps after that leaves a very fresh footprint. So, for example, last night I had a huge roadblock of elephants just over here, and I bet you we won't really even see much of their tracks because the rain has washed it away. Although there is lots of tracks in the road here, they're all unclear because of the rain. So what's nice now is after rain, an animal leaves very fresh footprints. So that is what we're going to be looking for. So it is nice and clear here today with a very low chance of rain, but I wonder what the weather forecast looks across the properties.
It's so lovely to have you, as always. It's me, Tswalu. I have Johan on camera with me. And as Steve was saying, the weather last night, there was a bit of rain, so now it's really nice to look for tracks. We can see if the tracks were before or after the rain, so it gives us that timestamp. You know, we talk about a timestamp, something to indicate when those tracks were formed. So now I'm on Zoe's Road, which is just slightly to the west of the central bits of Djuma. And we're moving to the south. No plans, no particular plans for today. I'd love to see some elephants. I'd love to see a leopard. I'd love to see anything, really, that the bush has to offer. Ooh, there's a great view.
Welcome back to Tswalu Kalahari and a very cold good morning, everybody. And we're starting off this morning with that gorgeous view over the Koranenberg Mountains. We've got some stunning colors coming over the top edges of these mountains peaks from the folding structures that you can see there, and a lovely, lovely point of view just below that with the dunes, as we have decided to come a bit east this morning. But just so beautiful looking across this area this morning early with beautiful, beautiful light coming across these mountains, and a nice cool breeze, shall I say, rather, this morning. My name is Johan, your team back into the Kalahari this morning from Tswalu side, and behind the camera is BK, and we will be broadcasting to your live safari this morning from the Kalahari. We just want to show you something else along with what we have just found here. Looking at the back of the edge of the gap of between the two mountains there's beautiful different colorations happening there as the sunrise is slowly but surely coming up. And very interesting seeing the two different colors. I hope you guys can see what we are seeing at the moment. But yeah, there's a margin line between two different blues happening there in the sky. And so as the earth is shaped, well, in line with the sun, as the sun is shining from a certain angle, and you've got the earth in line with that. So as the sunrise is still below the horizon, you actually get a shadow of the earth casted, and that you can see in the air. So what I'm trying to say is that the light blue color on the top of the pink margin line that you see, that is daylight. And below the pink margin line is actually still nighttime. So that's the shadow of the earth you're seeing right there. So that's the difference between day and night we can actually see there right now. So it's because we're still before sunrise. It's already light, as you can see, but we are in that crepuscular time at the moment where the shadow of the earth is casted quite nicely, and we can still see it. Obviously, because there's no light pollution and all of that happening right here where we are, and also no physical pollution from that point of view as you would have had in a big city or something like that. So you can easily see the difference between day and night. Just thought to share that with you as well. It's a very, very cool experience happening here at the moment that we have found. But yeah, stunning to see that actually early with the early morning light. And so just coming across the dunes here. Safari Kitty, you are commenting that it's a stunning image. I definitely agree with you. It is so beautiful, especially because you're in a desert environment. And at night, we have had a bit of a breeze blowing throughout the night and so on. And in saying that, the breezes that blows, yes, there's a lot of vegetation cover at the moment, so there's not a lot of dust pollution happening with the wind blowing most of the time and so on. But if we get a stronger, well, just a tiny bit stronger than a breeze, being going into a tiny bit of like 8 knots or so, I'd say, talking in flight language. But yeah, basically looking at it as it is, it could create a few dust particles in the air, and that is what creates the gorgeous, stunning, different colors on that margin line of the shadow of the earth that you can see there as well. But especially with the sunrises, that makes the Kalahari sunrises especially so blood red in color, and especially with wintertime with our cold fronts coming over, you get extremely beautiful blood red colorations from the wind that's blown the dust particles through the air, and as it comes through like that, you would get that stunning coloration of sunrises and sunsets happening. And even on the shadows of what happens on the opposite side of sunrise or sunset. But yeah, very stunning. You can see the beautiful savanna stretching out and about in front of the two hills there. And just a gorgeous image looking at that. So remember, this morning, you're welcome to send through your questions at FC or hashtag WildEarth. Please send through your questions and we'll be happily answering them. And yeah, let's continue down this road. We're going to just drive a tiny bit. Our plan this morning is we're going to look for lions. And we are planning to see the South Pride with the cubs. Peter, you asking if, as winter is approaching, would we see a new group of animals and that sort of thing? Yes, we will definitely, and I'm glad you're asking this question. The thing is, with wintertime, it comes down to a thing that you're literally looking at. Change of season changes behavior of animals. And as it comes through with that, then animals need to change. Again, coming back to what we spoke about yesterday as well, with the energy saving and using energy at the right time. Animals that's very nocturnal especially. That is what I'm more referring to, is nocturnal animals that will be more visible at daylight. So animals that's nocturnal by norm needs to be adjusting to day active activity, because their food resources majority of the time becomes active at daylight as well. So like the pangolin, the aardvark, even porcupines. It happens in the case of pangolin and aardvark, as well as aardwolf. All of those type of animals will have to adjust because their food resources, it's too cold at night in the dune fields especially, for those animals to look for food. As also looking at the termites and ants, they are not active when it's that extreme cold. So the thing is that the termites and ants are looking for the moisture in the plants and everything, and that happens in the wintertime. When it's extremely cold at night, it actually just freezes everything. So the best feeding time for those insects would be at the later afternoons, like you're looking at about 12 o'clock midday to about a good hour before sunset, which is forcing aardvark and pangolin and aardwolf and all of those guys, even the bat-eared fox that we've seen yesterday morning on screen, we would get all of those guys being active in the later afternoons. And that's just basically because they had to adjust. And it's like I've said it before as well, it's not to say that if I'm nocturnal, I need to stay nocturnal. If they are going to, they're simply just not going to survive. Just from a complete different note, look at that gorgeous, stunning the Digitaria eriantha grasses that we see in front here. Beautiful finger grass in the sunrise as the sun is about to come up and peak over the mountains there. And we've had the first layer of light now actually coming up on the mountains behind us, where we started with the shadow of the earth, with the difference between day and night. BK, I'm just going to ask us to quickly go back to that scene over there, just to show you how the shadow of the earth has actually disappeared now. And it shows you now that we are in complete daylight, as we can see it there now. You can see there, it's gone completely. There's no margin line anymore. It's literally just that light blue color with a yellow starting up on the top as it is starting to reflect from the sun. Gorgeous. Yeah, everybody, I'd say definitely. I mean, this is a gorgeous morning to start off with. I think it's going to be a much rather warmer day towards the middle of the day, from 12 to 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But yeah, it is rather chilly this morning. But that's generally how March is ending up in the Kalahari. It starts fairly cool to maybe a bit cold early morning. And then during midday, it still gets fairly hot, actually. And evenings are nice and cool and so. But yeah, we could feel definitely we are changing over to a proper winter time. Rather a early winter coming up and so. But yeah, generally looking at the temperatures changing slowly but surely, but it's coming early this year by the looks of it, because it's coming down to the moisture that's in the bush at the moment is in abundance. So we are expecting a very cold winter this year, which is a good thing for us, for game viewing purposes.
Our lives are dictated by alarm clocks, traffic jams, constant multitasking, and countless distractions. The wilderness is where many of us feel the most human. On a bushwalk, we become part of the natural landscape. As you step off the vehicle, everything comes alive. As with any risky experience, walking amongst these animals inspires awe and appreciation. Now, it's your turn to go on a bushwalk. Join us from Pride Lands as we slow down our thoughts, put aside our distractions and reconnect with the place that first taught us how to be human. It's the month of March and WildEarth is offering you the chance to win a brand new prize. Sign up to be a WildEarth Explorer and you could win a 5-day eco-training ranger experience for 2. Eco-training is the pioneer and leader in safari guide and wildlife training in Africa. The lucky winners can look forward to approaching dangerous game on foot, tracking and 4x4 driving, learning about animal behavior, and even spending one night sleeping out under a blanket of stars. In addition, you will also get the exclusive opportunity to join the WildEarth team on the broadcasting vehicle. Sign up to be an explorer now, and it could be you that wins this life-changing experience. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi, my name is Tristan Dix, and I am a guide here at Djuma Private Game Reserve for WildEarth. We love connecting you to the African bush, and we always look forward to all of your questions. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, you'll need to register on the website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit a question below the live feed. Catch up with me on WildEarth.
Yo.
Everybody, sorry about that. About the tech issue. You see this toe? This toe? This toe? That is on the front right foot. And then toe, toe, and toe on the back. Okay, now it's not very easy to see. Sometimes people confuse this and think warthog because of that, or kuru. And it's possible to confuse it, but then there's always this third bit. Sometimes even in the right substrate, there's a fourth bit over there. Let me show you. Okay, yeah, here's the track of the aardvark. Here is the right front. See, there's 1, 2, and 3 toes. And then sometimes you can see, let me just get my stick. Sometimes you can see that. And the right substrate's on the back foot. 1, 2. Actually see the toe is quite long with a very long shovel-like nail at the end.
Good morning, everybody, from a gloriously cool and sunny Pride lands. My name is Mike Anderson, behind the camera is Niels, and we are looking at some elephant tracks. We've come to the area of Leopard Dam in the hopes that we might be able to find some tracks and signs, because last night we had a little bit of rain, which was quite unexpected, but very beautiful. As you can see here, there is a beautiful elephant track that makes quite a nice, clear impression. You can see over here on this back end, there is a back end of the track. There's lots of rough ground here where the rain fell, and here where the elephant has stepped, you can see that there's no more of that crinkly earth. You can just see a lot of the marks on the bottom of the elephant's foot. This elephant looks like it was probably walking in the direction that we're heading, which is that way, maybe to go towards the shallower inflow of the dam. And now the rain fell last night around midnight, so it means this track is about 6 hours old, or at least less than 6 hours old. So it walked on top of where all the rain has fallen on the soil here. We've already seen some elephants on our way to the dam, looking for this particular elephant. So what we're doing is this is going to help us a lot to know if tracks are fresh, and of course insects and other creatures will also make impressions on these tracks. So if we would find things like antlion pits in there, we know that's also an indication of some sort of age. Beetle tracks on top. If there were impala tracks on top of this elephant as track, then it would mean that a daytime animal has walked on top of there. So so there's no daytime animal tracks on this, so it could even be a lot fresher than we think. It could even be from just less than an hour maybe since the sun has risen. But in any case, it's quite exciting. I'm going to walk around the dam now, just see what else we can find. It was a strange night with a bit of wind, so I wonder if maybe even some predators have been on the move to hunt during that windy, rainy time. Linda, that's a good question, and it all depends on things like the wind, more rain, traffic on a road like this, or even how much animal activity has been in the area. If this is a waterhole and it's going to be a hot day, in about 3 hours, once it's really, really hot, I don't think we're going to see this track anymore, because things like zebra, wildebeest, impala, more elephants, lots of giraffes are going to be coming to this area, and so they will probably disintegrate this track in short order. In a place like Pride Lands, which has as many elephants as it does, tracks don't tend to last very long, especially around waterholes like this. So Linda, if we saw a lion track, for example, we know there's a lion around here. Yesterday, our wonderful tracker Morris was in the area and he found tracks of a single lioness, which might well be Lagatha, that single lioness that moves around this area. If we find her tracks around here, it'll be a good chance for us to follow up, because it means that it's probably quite fresh around a waterhole. And she does her best hunting in these drainage lines around here. So just behind us over here, there's a whole long drainage line. You'll see now there's some big thick trees and vegetation, and Leopard Dam is just through those tambuetes over there. So all the way, there's some impalas actually drinking at the waterhole right now. How about that? I don't know if you'll be able to see it through there. But anyway, there's a few impalas just making their way to the edge of the waterhole. This is why Lagatha, that lioness, the single lioness in the area, does her best hunting here. There's always plenty of animals about. And this drainage line runs all the way from the eastern side of Pride Lands to the western side. So that's what we're going to be doing this morning. We've driven the first half, the eastern half. Now we're going to walk the western half of this drainage line in the hopes that we might come across something. And you can just see there on the right-hand side of your screen, there's that the weeping boer bean right at the water's edge, which is normally what we sit under when we're filming from the vehicle, the one that we often see lots and lots of bird activity in. It's going to get less foliage because it's been completely ring-barked by the elephants in the area. Very peaceful at the moment. Not too much going on. The elephants, however, have not been peaceful. You can see there's another tree just to the left of us, right down here, which has been pushed over by elephants, and we've subsequently had to sort of chop it to make it a little bit easier for us to traverse these areas. It actually gives us a good opportunity to see some of the rings. Can you see, it's not quite as hard as the leadwood. I know you've been looking at a leadwood and following its progress over the last few days when Taylor was here. So this is a marula, so it's a much softer wood, and so you can see the growth rings are quite a lot thicker in here. And if you're able to see that very, very clearly there. So you can see the growth rings are quicker. This tree grows quickly compared to leadwood and lives a very short life. Rulers are softwoods, often used for base plates and fire drills and that kind of thing. And so this tree might only grow 40 or 50 years, maybe 100 years if it's a very extremely large one. But a leadwood, which is a very slow-growing hardwood tree, that can grow for hundreds and hundreds of years, maybe 400 or 500 years. And then even once it's dead, it can last a lot longer than that. So it's... All right, so unfortunately my comms are breaking up quite badly, but I know we're sending you somewhere else, so I hope you're going to have more fun looking at someone else's live safari.
Welcome back, everybody. And while we've been driving down this road, we obviously been looking for these lion tracks coming through this area. But I was saying to BK, this is just such a wonderful area, looking at these gorgeous grasses that we're driving through and making the possibilities so strong that we could be looking at finding these lions in this area. So this grass tuft that BK is having over here, this is a bushman grass, a broadleaf bushman, and so these guys is quite abundant, being one of the most predominant grass species in this environment over the dune fields of the green Kalahari. And coming along to these ones over here, this is some of the finger grasses that we've been talking about as well. I'll show you just now once BK is on it here. But yeah, there you can see it, basically the typical finger-like grasses coming out there from that shoots there, coming through to these ones over here. Here we've got some of the ergostices. So the inflorescence of these grasses are actually very broad, and it comes through in lots of opposite nodes and internodes actually spreading out in different directions over there. So it's a rather broad inflorescence, if you wish, basically, that you're looking at there, and so on. But yeah, coming back to all of this actually in combination in this particular spot, and this is this entire region that we're literally looking at that looks like this and appears like this. And this is why I'm saying that we could get these lions in these areas. BK, there's another grass species this year that is very, very cool. You see that one down there? Don't know if you can see a bit more down. Yeah, there we go. So little seeds coming off on that grass seed over there. This is blue seed grass as well. To the left a bit more. There we go. So you see that inflorescence. It almost looks like little seeds all over the show that you can see on the screen there as well. So very cool as we're looking at this point of view in all of this overall, in a great combination, that this is a typical example of sweet felt in this environment. Even if we look across to the sunny side over here to this side where the sun is shining at the moment, it's a great combination of sweet felt that you're seeing right here. So the thing is that you got three different main felt types that you find in certain given points of felt disturbances, if I can put it that way. So if there's been overgrazing happening from a farming perspective, farming point of view, that happened over from cattle grazing in many different areas over many different years in certain game reserves in South Africa or in Africa itself, is that if there was overgrazing taking place, the land was disturbed quite heavily at certain given points, and then if it gets to that it will return into sour grass environments, which is basically saying that you don't really find animals often in that area, especially if there's lots more other areas with sweet felt environments. Sour grass is extremely low in palatability, and so that is why you don't find animals wanting to be there, meaning your herbivorous animals, your antelope species, especially selective grazers like red hartebeest and so on. And then if you look at the mixed felt environments, that is like, I want to say, monotoned disturbances that's been happening there. So you do have some scattered patches of sweet felt environment in that area, but it's majority. It's a possibility that you could have animals coming through there at sometimes and that sort of thing. So that means also that predators would be coming through there just sometimes, like let's say once a week or so. But a certain felt type like this, where you've got abundance of sweet felt, here you can see this is good conservation that's been happening here. And when I'm saying good conservation, it's even fantastic conservation that's been happening on this particular landscape where these farmers used to be in this area a long time ago. Fred, you are wondering if this grass will dry out in winter. Yes, they do change their color, and it's already starting to happen. You'll see at the bottom tufts of these grasses, it's still quite green in color, but the top ends, like the inflorescence, receiving the first cold coming down at night, descending, that is already starting to change color. As you can see, some of the yellows are coming out there as well. But yeah, generally in wintertime, the grasses all turns from top to bottom into a beautiful golden yellow color. Now, it doesn't say that there's no value in the grass anymore. It still has a nutritional value to it. It's just not as high as obviously the summertime and so. But it's good enough for your true desert animals to be surviving in a condition like this with changing over of seasons. And that is coming back to the question we had earlier with regards to will you see different other animals in certain areas? And this is coming back to adding up to that question as well. In wintertime, seeing other animals combining up to that as well is just because the plants that changes their color, changing over in different food resources with its nutritional value fluctuating different times of the year. The Kalahari being so special, providing different food resources with different nutritional values right throughout the year, changing behaviors of animals, changing route plans of animals, and all of that. Now, Tswalu is such a big game reserve that animals can actually migrate from areas to other areas depending on nutritional value, carrying capacity, etc., whatever the case might be. But yeah, bottom line is, such a gorgeous area that we're coming through right now. That is a great indication of where we could find strong possibilities of lion tracks or even the animals. And desert lions would hunt definitely most of the time in a mixed veld, meaning semi-savanna woodland, to all of these beautiful trees you see around us as well, where you find a typical environment looking like this, where you got lovely savanna environment mixed up with a great amount of the trees coming through. A semi-savanna to woodland environment, and amongst the mountain sections. As we've decided to travel obviously a bit further east this morning, it is generally quite a nice mixture because there's a bit more mountains in this area. So a great environment for desert lions to be in, and that is why we are taking a chance this morning, driving through this area, looking for these lions tracks. So we're going to continue down the road. Just wanted to share that with you, just out of an understanding point of view, thinking about how you could find lion tracks. How could you find, how do you think about life and thinking about how does the bush work together, and where do you start looking for tracks and so on, because of reading nature from that point of view. We're going to send you back over to Steve with some tracks while we are looking for our lions furthermore down the road.
Well, good luck, Juan, with finding your lions. We haven't moved on from our tracks, and we do apologize for any technical issues we might have had with the internet there. But we are still with the aardvark, and what is so amazing about finding tracks like this in the sand is this a very passive way for scientists to know what animal species occur in an area, because, well, this animal's moving around. You might not see it, but there's tracks. So it's a passive way. Camera traps, spoor counts. So spoor counts are quite a nice thing to do. You know, you basically you rake or you clear areas like you would this road, and animals that walk across you can tick off as being species in an area. Many of the observed species counts that you find around South Africa, many of them are camera traps or spoor counts. They don't actually physically see the animals. Camera traps are quite a new technology in that regard. Very, very nice to see. Now, when I said right, it's quite easy to see it's right because this is left. If I draw a line from here, this one goes to that one. So there's his left foot, his right foot, left foot, right foot, and he went straight across. Now we try and track him. Baboons are going crazy. We could try and track him. He's gone straight off into the thickets here. I'm not going to find him anyway. There are aardvark around. We've seen one from the drone before, but we've never seen one. I've never seen one on camera here. Let's go find out what's causing those baboons to have so much aggression this morning. I think there's a bit of a troop sort of dynamic going on at the moment. Not the aardvark that to be causing them to have such loud noises. I don't think it's a leopard because it's more of a fighting sound that's going on. It is bright. Parked right here. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're going to head on towards the south, see what we can find.
What you're looking at here is a very interesting little arthropod called a banded groundling, and it's in the dragonfly family. It's called a groundling because it doesn't ever fly very high off the ground, and the banded part of its name comes from the fact that it's got these bands on its wings. Now, this particular banded groundling is waiting for us to walk along this pathway, because what we do when we walk along this pathway is we disturb a multitude of small insects. And so as we do that, it can fly around our feet and catch these little insects that we disturb. Actually, a lot of our students love these little arthropods because it looks like we've got a little friend or a pet, because it will literally follow us around the camp all the time as we walk around. Like you've got a little invisible lead on the thing. But they're very awesome. They're catching little grasshoppers, midges, anything at all, little flies that get disturbed as we walk. Very fast flyers, very agile, just like all the dragonflies, able to fly backwards, forwards, up and down. High speed. Beautiful little creature. I mean, they move too quickly to film whilst we're walking, but if we could, it would be amazing to show you how they really do follow us. But in any case, awesome little creature. Now, the reason why I actually stopped here was because we're about to walk onto the dam wall at Leopard Dam. There's a beautiful pathway back there, which is really lovely. Now, what I saw was these paper thorns that are all down here. Now, these paper thorns are an interesting little plant. So they almost always occur in disturbed areas, places that have been disturbed by human activity. So there's another groundling. See, I moved my hand. Now the groundling is, wanting to investigate if I'm disturbing anything. Wasn't that amazing? Did you see that? I don't know if we were able to see that on the camera, but that was very cool. So now, this is an area disturbed by humans historically, because there's a dam wall here that holds the water of Leopard Dam, natural rainwater that flows down this drainage line. But also now, because there's water here, there's a ton of elephants and other animals that move around here, and they cause a lot of disturbance by, pulling up grasses, pushing down trees, and walking and trotting the ground until it's bare. And so all these paper thorns are a type of pioneer. They actually help to stabilize the soil around here, and in doing so, they are able to improve the conditions so that other things can grow. And now, what's quite normal of most pioneers is that they've got special adaptations to spread their seeds because they're not palatable. Nothing really eats them. And so what happens is they have to have seeds that either stick to your fur or your skin or in some way attach themselves to you so that when you walk around, you spread the seeds manually. So these ones, paper thorns, actually have these sharp little hooks that are very painful. If you've ever had a paper cut before, it's a tiny little cut in your skin, but it burns like anything. Same thing with these paper thorns, very small. When they stick into your skin, it's very uncomfortable. And anyway, you walk around and you feel it, ouch, it's in your sock or whatever. And you pluck it out and you throw it down. And then there you go. The paper thorn is going to grow in a new area, especially if it's a disturbed site. They don't do well with competition. So once this area becomes stable and you find lots of other grasses and things growing, the paper thorns will die out eventually. The beautiful thing about pioneers, serve a useful purpose, then eventually they get replaced by climax things. But anyway, let's take a little walk up this wall here and see if we can spot anything coming down to the dam. See if this banded groundling, see? just follows in front of us here. Do grazing animals have taste buds similar to humans? I'm not actually sure. I'm sure that animals definitely have taste buds, and they can really taste different flavors and have things that they prefer and what they don't prefer. For example, elephants, which graze quite a lot of the time, will often search out trees with fruits. So you'll find them literally walking to the marulas, shaking them, picking up the fruits, move to the next one. They love the flavor of those things. And then at certain times of the year, certain seasons, you'll find that the elephants target certain trees. We saw them pushing a lot of cork woods last year. Some years they target the bushman's grape. So yeah, definitely, I think animals do have taste buds. It won't be the same as ours. I mean, we eat things that are pretty delicious and tasty, and our taste buds are probably quite poor. I mean, if an animal ate that, I mean, you see animals coming from a long distance to get to things like oranges. It's quite well known that elephants love oranges as well. They can taste them and smell them from a long way away. The groundling has flown now a little bit ahead of us, and it is waiting for us to keep moving. So I'm going to just step forward again, and you'll see if this groundling follows us some more. I'm moving through a thick area, but it's flying behind. So it's now by your legs there, Niels. Wonderful. Amazing the pathway that's been created by the elephants here. You can see there's a bit of a saddle up ahead here. The elephants use it to go over the dam wall itself, from the thickets to drink just over here. A wonderful little canopy that's above us as well, so it's really shady and nice and cool here during the day. A lot of animals like monkeys, baboons will also stay here most of the day because of the fruits that are growing, because of the water, and because of the shade.
On the 27th of April, WildEarth will be turning 14 years old, and we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for all of you. And to celebrate, we will be finishing the beautiful book that we started last year that looks at the history so far. But we do need you to be part of it. Please submit your most memorable sighting, or what WildEarth means to you, or even just your name and a comment to be included inside the book. Head over to the website to add your name and reserve your copy. We are offering a 20% discount on all books bought before the end of March. And a big thank you to all of you who have contributed to the book so far. For all of you WildEarth explorers who bought plaques, today is the day that you will make your very first safari on our vehicle. Because we are quite remote here in the bush, they have taken some time to arrive, but I am happy to say they are here and they look great. Marcel has spent the day attaching them. Let's take a look.
Before we mount these nameplates, we just give a light dusting of green paint. This is to better match them to the color of the vehicles and also to decrease the reflectivity of the metal and thereby staying sensitive towards the animals.
Bumbo crew. Hopefully, Dan Black, Liesel Apgar, and Alicia George. Well, it's time for me to get ready to take you all on a safari. Let's go.
I'm Nikki here at andBeyond in Ngala in South Africa. I love getting questions from viewers about all the small things within the environment and how it all is integrated with one another. If you want to ask me any questions, please simply register with the WildEarth website, head across to the Live Safari page, and then post your questions there. I'm looking forward to chatting to you on my next WildEarth drive.
Welcome back, everybody, and we have reached a gorgeous waterhole over here a bit further east, and we've come across this beautiful Egyptian geese with all her youngsters, and there's actually quite a few heads popping up just behind the dam wall over there, as you can see. But yeah, cleaning herself, cleaning her feathers quite a bit there, and so speaking of which, talking about youngsters, BK, if we can just zoom into the right-hand side there, you can see there the little heads moving behind the hill there. Very prematured heads, still not really full on the colors that Egyptian geese have, or goose, if you wish. But yeah, looking at that, and speaking about youngsters, as we driven towards this water point in the hopes of obviously trying to find these lions tracks and so on, we have come across a lioness tracks with beautiful small little cubbies. And so this is looking like a lioness with cubs that I haven't seen yet. So it is going to be cool to try to follow up on those tracks. Actually, we just wanted to check the waterhole first and just see if she hasn't turned around and come back up to the water point. But we've found really cool small baby cub tracks. And so the thing is that you can see this gorgeous water point, very beautiful, a big water body actually, as it's a good water source for most of your animals and mammals in this particular environment. And so a lot of water birds being drawn to this spot. I've seen some common windbrills here. I've seen, and that's typically like a temporary migrator coming through sometimes, yeah, and so on. But then also quite a lot of these blacksmith lapwings on the border edges and so. Three-banded plovers, and yeah, lots of bird activity actually early, first things first in the morning as we've just arrived here. But yeah, looking at that lioness tracks, we are going to be turning around from here and just cover the areas further back west where the tracks was heading into. There is a beautiful valley in amongst the mountains here, which I know some of the lionesses goes with their cubs and so sometimes. So we're going to be checking that out first as we travel back west. And so yeah, beautiful seeing that doves drinking water. Gorgeous. Some Cape Turtle doves. The typical early morning, good morning sound that you hear. A very, very cool sound. There's a couple of Namakwa doves actually that's been coming over to the left-hand side here. There's a blacksmith lapwing. Looks like it's just dropped down onto its nest actually. Just to the left-hand side, I can see lots of activity happening around here. There's a shaft-tailed wider actually coming across there. There we go, shaft-tailed wider just got airborne. But yeah, looking at the blacksmith lapwing, he's got his nest just on the edge of the water body there. I've seen him sitting down on the eggs as well. But yeah, beautiful. If you listen to the sound of this bird as well, it sounds like a blacksmith tapping on iron. And that is where that iconic name is coming from. But always blacksmith lapwings you'll find around water bodies generally and so on. Just so beautiful seeing the scenery and looking at this blacksmith lapwing and all of these other birds. So in the meanwhile, we're going to turn our wheels around and we're going to go look for that lioness with her small cubs, and hopefully we get blessed with a stunning sighting there. We're going to see if we can find those tracks furthermore down the road and track her down for the morning. We'll keep you updated. We're going to send you in the meanwhile back over to somebody else with a stunning, interesting thing to show you.
We are looking at a beautiful dead jackalberry tree. I think it's a jackalberry. It's not so easy to tell. But what's really caught our attention was, as we walked past here, Caroline mentioned that she saw something. Asked me, what's living in there, Mike? And I said, oh, interesting. Not really sure what's living in there, but it probably is a squirrel of some sort. So this tree, being dead, looks like it's probably got a hollow that goes all the way up. And if you look up this tree, you can see that there's holes all over it. I suspect a squirrel has made this a home for itself. It's actually taken some nesting material, some grass maybe to curl up in, keep it nice and warm. And a tree like this with lots of hollows probably makes a wonderful food store. Squirrels are often taking nuts and seeds during the summer and storing them away for the winter when it's very, very little food for them. Remember, squirrels are also basically omnivorous. Being rodents of a sort, they will eat a whole bunch of other things as well. They'll eat insects, they'll eat all sorts of stuff. I've even heard stories of them eating things like birds' eggs from nests, which I can't confirm, but if it's a rodent, it certainly would. They cause major problems. But in any case, in there is probably a male or a female or a little small group. They're often in small family groups, so males and females plus a number of youngsters. So it's quite interesting that we see it so low down. Now, this is probably just the entrance, and there'll almost certainly be multiple exits or escape routes for this family of squirrels, if that is that is indeed what's in here. Because if a snake was to go up there, which wouldn't be difficult, it's very low to the ground, if a snake was to find its way up there, something like a black mamba, which is often catching squirrels. In fact, I think recently a whole bunch of our students saw a black mamba eating squirrel babies. Amanda, squirrels don't normally make the holes themselves, although they do have strong teeth. Like most rodents, they have teeth that just continue growing their whole life, so they have to nibble on things in order to keep their teeth from growing too long. But this was a natural cavity. They can probably extend the inside of this little burrow. If there's a section which they quite like, they might use their teeth to gnaw away at it and make it a bit more comfortable, but they won't make the hole themselves. Even mice and rats that live in all parts of the world, you'll see a hole in let's say a wooden cupboard where they've eaten in there, but that's just to get inside. They haven't eaten a hollow inside the wood. They've just eaten a hole that they get in, and then they're living inside whatever that cavity is. So that's really awesome to see. We're still sitting here at Leopard Dam. This tree is often being used by the vervet monkeys, where they sit in the evenings overlooking the water, where they can drink and still have someone on watch to make sure there's no danger. Still wondering if any animals are going to come down. It's still very cool. It's not yet warm this morning. And so it's likely that many animals are going to stay away for just a little bit longer until it starts to warm. Oh, there's something interesting. I don't know if you can see it through here. There's a foam nest frog. Sorry, Elizabeth, could you maybe repeat that question? Elizabeth, I know you asked a question about squirrels, but I'd love to be able to answer it a bit more, but I didn't quite hear the question. No, Elizabeth, the squirrels are not solitary. They're often in small groups. This is not a squirrel nest. This is a foam nest from a foam nest frog. But squirrels also make nests, and they usually live in small groups. So you'll often find 4 or 5 squirrels all together, often sunning themselves in the morning. They're not solitary at all, rather gregarious. Those foam nest frogs are quite solitary, though. You'll very rarely see them sitting in groups unless they're mating, which is what that little foam nest pouch was there. That looks quite fresh. In fact, it's quite odd. Maybe during the night when it was raining, they made that little foamy nest. I don't know. It's getting late in the season for frogs to be active. Actually, right now, it's still very cool. I rolled my sleeves up, but I'm kind of regretting it a little bit now. And so the frogs will not be very active because they are, like many amphibians and also many reptiles, very, very much what we would say cold-blooded, ectothermic, meaning that they get their warmth from the surrounding area. So being so cool like this, it's unlikely that these frogs are going to be active very much longer. This might well be the last foam nest of the season. If that piece of boer bean, I think that is, was a little bit more solid, I'd love to reach over there and have just a little feel of the outside of that foam nest to feel how firm it is. Once it starts to harden, it feels a lot like meringue. It's really, really hard, even like polystyrene. And that's what gives it a protective covering. And there's lots more animals coming behind us now. We've got a whole bunch of impalas. There were some zebras before. Now we've got impalas that are starting to come down to the water's edge from behind us. So they are probably waiting as well until it gets a little bit warmer before they actually come and drink. And they haven't seen us yet, which is really good. There's a lot of them moving around there. The wind is in our favor. And they can't hear us, they can't see us. And there's a little zebra there as well in the background. So there is life around Leopard Dam. Now, whilst we figure out where we can go next, we'll send you over to Yuan, who's still on a bit of a bumble.
So, we have come through this back valley that I was talking about earlier on. We've come through here and we've only come across too many other animals that's come across there yet. So it doesn't seem like this lioness has crossed into this valley that we spoke about earlier on. So what we're doing now is we're just completing this road that came through this valley, and then we're going to go back to that last set of tracks that we've had crossing by the edge of this base edge of this hill here. And then we're going to continue on those tracks down the road. But for now, we're just making dead sure that these tracks haven't come into these areas where we're driving right now. So we're just taking it super slowly. See, the thing is, in the Kalahari, especially being so vast, you need to focus on the tracks quite a lot of the times. Gwen, apologies for that. We couldn't hear at all what was happening there. So as I was saying, basically within the Kalahari, you need to focus on the tracks quite a lot. Just because of this vast open land spaces and so on. And so it comes down to a situation that if you got the tracks and you stick with the tracks for long distances and so on, you can most of the time then up your game with finding the animals, if I can put it that way. Yeah, the grasses are growing over so much over the road here. Yeah, there's a comment that just came through now and saying that the animal tracking is so fascinating. It is definitely one of my favorite things to do in the bushes. If you think about it, looking at details of tracks and talking about so much different elements that plays a huge role in with regards to finding the animals. It's not just you bumble in the bush and you come lucky with animals. Yes, it could happen sometimes. Drive and see what you get to see. But yeah, it's so much more fascinating. Well, I love to do it, actually, thinking about tracks itself. We're going to have to just take it easy as we come through this thick bush section here. But yeah, following tracks, reading the elements, looking at the environment, thinking what needs to be happening next, and trying to find animals through that way. That is, I'm going to say, almost the only way to find animals in the Kalahari, just because of the vast open spaces. So we are back at our last set of tracks here. So I just want to show you the set of tracks that we had earlier here to find these lion cub tracks. There we go. So, Bika, is that all right, eh? So I hope we can reach here. Just to look at this track itself, a bit too close. Right, I'm going to just reposition and just see if we can get a bit of a different angle here. Let's just get this angle going, yep. Those ones there. So if you look at the tracks, I'm not going to be able to reach it, BK, but just go to that little twig there. If you look at that tracks there, you can see very interesting seeing the little tracks on the ground surface there to the twigs right inside, and then where the margin line of the vehicle drags a shadow, there's a very nice track there. There we go, that's it. So we can zoom in just a bit there. The bigger track on the back end of the screen, if we just lift it up a bit, BK, there we go. So that track over there, that's the mother's track. So you can see the lioness on the right-hand side, that's the front tip of her toes actually coming through. And then to the left-hand side is the back end of the lobes. You can see the 3 lobes at the back end of the track. Now these tracks are looking like they are heading back to the waterhole. And this is why I was saying that we should just check out the waterhole first. But she has made just a bit of an up and down situation here. And the tracks have turned out to go a bit further west. Now, if you look at the bottom right-hand side of the screen, if we can just zoom in comparison to the bigger track of the mother, you can see that tiny little cub tracks. Very distinctive on the, well, I want to say almost to the center of the screen. Just below the center there, you can see the 3 lobes at the back end of the track of the cub. And then to the right-hand side, to 3 quarters to the right, there is a little leaf lying there. That's the, well, one of the toes are touching that leaf on the right-hand side. So you can see the toes on the right-hand side of this little cub's track. So very cute actually seeing, there we go. There's the actual track coming in there. But very cute seeing that tracks like that. I mean, that is, for us as guides and trackers, following tracks like that, I mean, that is really special. That's not something you get to see every day. You get to see the average big full-grown lion tracks that you find most of the time, but just seeing that big sized, or how small that is actually, I mean, that's about the size of a matchbox. So that's very, very tiny tracks that we're looking at there. I mean, that is just so special. So I'd rate, just judging on these cubs tracks here, that's a if you remember, if you've been watching the show over the last month or so, we've been talking about these cubs that was hidden in the mountains, and they're not with the South Pride yet. And this is them actually that has come out of the mountains now. I personally haven't seen them yet out from the mountains yet. I've seen them once in the den site, but yeah, a very difficult spot would have reached. And now it looks like finally they've come up out of the mountains. So shortly they'll be joining the South Pride at some given point, as the lions do link up with each other in the Kalahari from a den site. The mother actually introducing to doing introductions to the prides quite early, at early stages, because survival comes back to safety in numbers and all of that. But yeah, looking at those cubs tracks, just so cool. It is just so fascinating, man. You can imagine. So if you look at the stride of this track itself as well, you're looking at 4 tracks walking together in a line. When they're walking down the road, roughly, you're looking at about an animal that you can actually, like every 3rd track is, if you make it to a vertical axis, you can actually judge the height of this animal. And at the moment, you're looking at about 20, well, you could actually place it down to about 27 centimeters in height that we're looking at right now, which is very small for lion cubs. There's actually no difference between desert lion cubs in size if they're baby sizes or so. The only difference comes in when they reach about 3 to 4 to 5 months of age. Then you start seeing, this is big cubs for that young age, because they grow very quickly as well. It's more or less the same situation as what you would have had with the meerkats, where you see quick growth situations happening. And it also depends on how well the pride is looking after those cubs as well from that point of view. But yeah, very stunning seeing these tracks that we're about to follow this morning. So yeah, let's continue down the road and see if we could find some more tracks coming down the road.
As you can see, the elephants have finally arrived at Leopard Dam. Oh, and there's another. Great. We're going to have to relocate Morris. There's another elephant right behind us. So those elephants are on the one side of the dam. There's a herd of elephants that's now coming from behind us. It all happens at the same time, doesn't it? Let's just maybe make a space for this elephant that wants to come down to the water. Right behind us there. It's always the case. When something arrives, it happens all at the same time. And there's a baby as well. There's a tiny little baby. As long as we just keep moving away, quietly giving them space, we'll head towards the dam wall, where they'll feel very comfortable. It's a whole herd that's coming down now. We did say that once it starts getting warmer, it's going to get busier with elephants. Beautiful, isn't it? And what's great about the elephants here on Pride Lands is that they are very used to the smell of humans, because there's so many of them, and we move around often on foot with our students, and so they recognize us, and they're generally not that threatened by us, but we should still give them a bit of space. Let's keep moving back a bit more. We're going to go up onto the dam wall itself, where we can try and see if we can get a better view of them without making them feel in any way blocked by us. So let's just go this way. So I think they communicate with each other, and so they can always hear when there's one elephant at the dam, there'll be others as well. So we're just going to come this way. It's a beautiful view up here. Can you see them okay from there, Morris? It's just so funny. I said to Morris earlier, okay, so now we're going to keep our distance as much as possible from the elephants. We'd like to not have them, react to us in any way. We're watching the ones on the safe side of the dam, and then others come from the opposite direction. I suppose that's to be expected with the amount of elephants on Pride Lands. There's almost always going to be some at a waterhole somewhere. Now, what we must remember is that it's likely that these elephants are going to want to come this way, so we're going to have to move again shortly, because they often use the dam wall that we were just standing on to get from one place to the other. So what we'll do is we'll take the pathway directly behind you there, Morris. If we need to move, we'll just go straight that way on the game path. Megan, by their tracks, not really. I mean, certainly probably if it had a very distinctive pattern on its feet, yes. But we mostly identify the elephants from their tusks and from their ears, because we know that there's Susan and there's a few other elephants with very distinctive tusk shapes and ear shapes as well. Okay, Caroline, if you can come past the back of Morris and just start to move us that way, because as you can see, this one female, she does want to come towards us, and I don't want to be blocking her, so we need to give her a bit of space. See, she's already seen us. See, her head is up there. She can see the movement. Don't you just want to watch your step behind you there, Morris? There is a bit of a branch. Just making sure that she can see us and that she's not going to panic. Okay, just... Okay. Right there, Morris. There's a bit of a branch here, so it's a bit awkward. We're just going to go behind these branches just a bit further away, because they are going to want to use this this game path that we're on now in order to get to the other side of the dam where these young bulls are. Keep coming here, Morris. You're right. Okay, so now we've got some options. We've got a number of game paths that are... Let me just move in front of you here, Morris. We've got a number of game paths behind us now, which will help us to make decisions if we need to change direction. Can you still see those ones at the water there, Morris? So you see the big female, probably the matriarch of the group. She seems to have changed her mind, and she's now moving back north in the direction they came, maybe to some good feeding grounds. The others are still drinking there, including a tiny baby that looks like it's going to fall over into the water. You see that tiny little baby there? How cute is that thing? Okay, now it looks like it's going to walk away from the water, and the others are still just having a nice thirst-quenching drink. Absolutely wonderful. What an amazing view we have this morning. And after all the rain we had, everything just feels fresher, and the mountain is incredibly clear, as you can see behind the leadwood there. Debbie seeing elephants on foot is always a wonderful experience, especially the elephants of Pride Lands. We've gotten to know them over the last over a year now that we've been doing these live safaris here. So it's really starting to, we get to know their personalities and we understand them a bit better and we know where they walk and what they do. And so it's an amazing experience and humbling as well, especially when there's a massive elephant walking down a pathway towards you. You really can, you really feel quite insignificant, actually, quite small. But if we follow the rules of the bush, and we move out of the way when elephants want to come walk towards us, and everything works out perfectly. It's such a different experience from being on a vehicle. When an elephant looks a bit grumpy, we drive away. But on foot, if an elephant comes around the corner, then we have to sort of deal with that in the moment, and we just have to... It's almost like following the rules of engagement. We make space, and they're quite happy for us to do our thing. Remember, we are wild animals at heart. We're meant to be here. We remove ourselves and we try and change everything around us, but we're meant to be here. I love how the youngsters are just ignoring us completely. They're all in the water having a drink. The mother still stands up. She's starting to feed now and she's relaxed, but she definitely looks like she's keeping a watchful eye on the rest of these elephants, making sure that nothing bad is going to happen. Now I can hear some impalas in the background having some rutting. Maybe that same group we saw a bit earlier. Looks like most of the elephants are starting to turn away from the water. They've had their drink, they've satisfied themselves. Now they're going to head up and find some good feeding, probably in one of these drainage lines, where it's cool and green and still very moist. Right, so these elephants are going to move off. We're going to figure out where we can go not to disturb them. In the meantime, we'll send you over to Steve, who's on a bit of a bumble.
Well, good morning everybody. Welcome to Chitwa. I'm going to go just sit down by the dam and have some quiet time. Oh, no ways. This is Herbert Causa, who many of you might know before. He's freelancing. Mr. Herbie. How are you?
Good morning.
Hello, everybody.
Hi,
I'm currently live, and our viewers love this man. They love this man. Herbie, nice to see you, eh? I'm just going to go down there. Will you kuluma, eh?
Yeah.
Komo, sharp, sharp. A beautiful morning. Oh, everybody, did you see Herbie? Herbie used to work with us. Herbie used to be our tracker extraordinaire. And here are some tracks from yesterday. Leopard tracks coming straight across here, heading towards the dam. Did you see? Did you get him? Did the Herbie wave? Oh, bless his heart. Now that man, everybody, can track a leopard like you've never seen. Herbie used to conduct our bushwalks for us, yeah? Everyone got to see him and they got to see the famous Herbie wave. Oh, bless. Bless. Okay, well, we're going to go down to the water. I feel it's almost time for a coffee. It's probably past time for a coffee, actually. We're going to do a spot of birding. See what else we might find. This leopard track seemed like they're heading in this direction, but while it was raining, I sort of tell that by the fact that the track is soft, but yet rained on. Very explained. Here we go. This is what I mean. they are. No doubt this is what Herbie was talking about just now. So you can kind of see the indentation of the tracks. But you see where my finger is, how it makes the track look nice and fresh. Whereas over here, it's actually been damaged by the rain. There's fresh. That's been rained on. So it happened while it was raining. If I step here now, you can see that there's a colour. The coloration of that is fresh, whereas these have been rained on. And that is going over to Little Gowrie. So we won't be able to follow. But that it looks like a young male. It looks like it could be Sibuyi's boy. Shasha. Could be. I don't always presume to know who's who in the wild, but male versus female, definitely, and that's a young male's track. Yes, indeed, Linda. Male tracks are bigger. Female tracks are smaller. Male tracks get about 10 centimeters. Females get about 8 centimeters. So measuring is key. And in the male track, the outer 2 toes are very wide, especially on the front foot. Both for lion and leopard, they're wider than the back pad. They actually stand out. The size is always a good one to check. Females get very dainty little paws. I'm not saying that they're not formidable. They just don't have the same size foot because they don't have the same weight to carry. This is perfect weather for a leopard to be hunting. Cool, windy. Animals are terrified in these conditions. Don't know about you, but I get a little bit antsy in the wind. It's probably due to our sort of ancestral knowledge that when it was windy like this, we got hunted. So you get a bit antsy, a little bit, what's going on? What's going to eat me? Okay, so we'll just go down slowly here, try not to chase away these impala and these waterbuck. Boys, it's a boys' Sunday down here by Chitwa Chitwa. Marvellous. And Paul, we'll join the boys, shall we? Paul's keen. Okay, so here we have joined the League of Gentlemen, a bunch of waterbuck and impala boys.
We stopped as the dusk was settling and there was a zebra mare underneath the bush. She was lying down. We didn't really know what was happening, and then we saw it.
Everybody, there's a zebra giving birth there. There's a zebra giving birth. This is a zebra giving birth. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, you clever mare. Well done. It's born, everyone. It's born and it's alive and it looks fine.
This was, of course, an unusual sighting. Normally, herbivores like impala and wildebeest and zebra will give birth during the middle of the day. This is when their predators like lions and hyenas are fast asleep. But as this little foal took its first steps, the dying embers of the day had just gone over the western horizon, and it was just the time that the hyenas and lions were starting to get active and go out foraging. This is why we didn't light up the sighting, of course. It may have compromised the zebra's eyes and at the same time attracted those hyenas and lions to the activity.
For many years, WildEarth has taken viewers from around the world to the Mara Triangle, a place of majestic beauty and abundant wildlife. But it wasn't always like this. Before 2001, it was infested with poachers. Illegal harvesting and hunting was rife. Now the situation couldn't be more different. The hard work and dedication of the Mara Conservancy has revolutionized this magical land. But now, the loss of revenue from tourism has created a grave crisis. The Mara Conservancy needs help if they are to continue protecting the reserve and supporting the local communities whose livelihood depend on its survival.
My name is Ross and I'm a field guide at andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on WildEarth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live Safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
Welcome back to Chitwa, everybody, with our gentlemen, our bunch of waterbuck boys. They're all hanging out. There's at least two of them are pretty decent fellows. The rest are sort of just youngsters hanging out with each other to practice sparring. We've got a magnificent specimen here of the Pied Kingfisher. Oh, look at that. You got him, Paul? What a wonderful shot. I filmed a slow-mo of one of them once doing that, and it's actually amazing to see how their wings work. Oh, now it's perched in the tree. So these waterbuck boys, you often find that when you find one male on his own, that he's being quite territorial, he's trying to look after a group of females. But it's not uncommon to find a male, a big male, with a whole lot of youngsters. And he tolerates them because, well, first of all, they can keep eyes and ears out against predators. And also, they're not big enough to compete with him, so they sort of show him a bit of deference, respect. And he hopes that if another waterbuck male decides to come in there, they might assist him a little bit. That's kind of the hopes. But in general, you find a big waterbuck male on his own, or you find these smaller groups hanging around with a decent-sized fellow who is generally the boss. And that guy in the middle there, sort of semi-facing us, looks to be the one. Here we go again, ready for a quick shift. Ah, look at those wings. Oh! KG, I don't think they're as specific as impala and wildebeest. Waterbuck, you can see them with youngsters throughout the year, similar to kudu, but there definitely is a peak with regards to the breeding time, where the females want to have their youngsters in the summer, when there's lots of vegetation to conceal them. There's definitely a peak, but I wouldn't say as a specific rut like you find with some of the other sort of more gregarious antelope species. Waterbuck are very good at going off on their own, the female, and hiding her youngsters in the thickets. And then she'll actually leave the youngster there and go off to drink and come back again. A strategy that seems to work quite well for waterbuck. Those of you who were watching last year with me here when we had the wild dogs hunting, they were actually looking specifically for young waterbuck that had been left hidden in the long grass, and they managed to find one. It's quite something to behold, as you probably, if you didn't watch the show last night, if you did watch, and you saw Juan's wild dogs in Tswalu killing a warthog. It is not easy, everybody. It's not easy to watch. It is nature at its rawest and most naked. really are a beautiful animal, don't you think? So they will definitely maintain those territories, and the females will breed every year, and generally in the rainy seasons. Lily pads, I've never seen a waterbuck without the white, without the ring. It's not to say that they don't exist. These fellows are giving each other a little bit of a hard time. We're going to stay here with our waterbuck, maybe do a spot of birding while we send you over to Mike and see what he's found.
Well, thanks, Steve. We have found a very massive tree that I've never actually walked and sat under. This is a weeping boar bean, and it's a really massive, huge one. It's one of the biggest ones on the whole of Pride Lands. And, yeah, I've always seen it from a distance and always wanted to come and stand underneath it. And, in fact, we came here because the elephants were approaching from the dam wall, and we had to make our way away. In fact, I can still see an elephant from where I am up here. But what I wanted to show you about this was, now that I was here, it's very cool. So, as you can see, it's on a bit of a high area. We're standing on a termite mound, and this tree grew on the termite mound. But over time, I think the termite mound has become extinct. And you can see all these roots are now exposed. These would have all at some point been underground. But with rain and erosion and all sorts of stuff happening, they've all been exposed. And in fact, this tree is probably not going to stand much longer because it's already leaning over to the side, as boar beans often do. And with this wind and with more erosion happening, eventually the roots won't have enough purchase, and this beautiful tree will collapse, which is a shame because it's home to all sorts of cool animals. But what else was really awesome that I just saw was there's a pile of soil here. There's a bit of soil collected onto a piece of the bark here. I don't know if you can see that very clearly, but this soil here is highly nutritious. This is what the termites have brought up when they created a covering on the wood in order to feast on some of the dead bark of this weeping boar bean. Now this in itself is nutritious, the soil, but now also with that added nutrients from the fungus that the termites then grow underground, and the spores that might be infiltrating all over the soil. In many parts of the world, not just in Africa, but many parts of the world, soil like this is highly sought after for pregnant women, because obviously in many cultures the nutrients that they need are not always found in all the foods that they eat. They're often quite deficient, and so what they have to do in order to make sure that their body stays healthy and the baby develops correctly and is also very healthy, they need extra minerals, and soil like this is full of those minerals. So in many parts of southern Africa, especially around here, these rural areas, you often find in small markets in rural villages jars of termite soil being sold, so that people can literally eat it. Literally take this and put it in your mouth. In fact, I'm going to try it a little bit now. I'll see. Is it very tasty? Can confirm. Not my favorite snack. But actually not bad. Doesn't really taste like dirt. It tastes, I don't know, a little bit like the wood, I suppose, that it's been feasted on. But there you go. I'm going to feel very healthy a little bit later today. Maybe I'll hike the mountain. But anyway, very cool, very awesome to see. So I also wanted to apologize to everyone. Just a moment ago when we were extracting from those elephants, I kept saying Morris instead of Niels. I didn't even notice when I was doing it because I've actually been talking to Morris. He's our tracking expert who's on foot in the area looking for animals, and he's just located a leopard somewhere quite far from where we are, so we might not be able to go there this morning. But that was it. Morris's name was in my head, so I kept calling Niels Morris, but there's not Morris behind the camera. It is definitely Niels. I can still see that young elephant bull. He's still maybe looking for our scent in the distance behind us. I don't think, Niels, you'll be able to see him on the camera. But until that elephant moves off, probably just going to stick around here on this little safe island that we have in order to let them all disappear so we can continue on our bushwalk. I'm glad I'm finally sitting underneath this tree because we've seen often things like Faroe's eagle owls in this tree. We've seen the trumpeter hornbill sitting in this tree, which is not a common bird. And one day I hope to even find a leopard or something in this tree. It'll be a pretty tricky one for a leopard to climb because there's not too many nice horizontal branches low down. But you never know. Wishful thinking can bring us a lot of luck. In the meantime, I'll send you back over to Yuan.
So as we've been talking about the grasses in a certain environment earlier on, talking about the sweetgrass species and finding animals in certain areas due to the presence of the environment and so on, we have come across the area where these lions have been turning off. We've had quite a bit of more signs actually on the road now here, where this lion, as you can see, she was purely scouting over this area. As we could see the back legs of her back legs actually scouting over the area, and sitting down on the road, sitting straight up, looking across the landscape. As we had oryx, we had some red hartebeest, we had all sorts of things actually coming through this beautiful sweetfelt environment in front of us. And so we have decided to just make a quick loop through this spot here, because we've had tracks going up and down in the spot now from the road. So that is why we've just turned off here quickly and just making a quick loop and just see if we can't see them maybe sitting scouting on one of the edges of these bushes. You see the grasses are so tall from all of the rain that we've been receiving that she could be sitting straight up and we can't really see her from the road where we are at. There's a red hartebeest coming through on the top edge angle there. And the thing is, it looks like there's a whole herd coming through here. And this is the reasoning why I've got the feeling that we just need to scout over this area a tiny bit, because you can see those hartebeest are just looking at us coming through. Do you see it there, PK? Yeah, there we go. So you can see that stunning red hartebeest coming through there, and there's plentiful food resources. So talking about that, I mean, red hartebeest is a strong selective grazer. So adding on to what we spoke about this morning with the beautiful sweet felt environments that we have on Tswalu, especially in the dune fields and the savanna environments. Red hartebeest becoming indicator species, well, indicating the fantastic sweet felt environments. But because of their presence, obviously, that's why you have these lions coming through here. And with selective grazers becoming indicator species, there comes a huge amount of other bulk grazers, for instance, that would join those selective grazers. And as there's then obviously a large quantity of animals, you could easily get to a spot where there's a mass amount of predators obviously being linked with that entire combination, if you look at it from that way. Which are very cool seeing it and understanding the bigger picture, if you think about it, that we might be actually getting lucky right now while we're just sitting here and seeing another full-on lion chase actually that might be happening in the spot, just because of the elements and the signs that we've had with those tracks. In saying that, we're going to be watching this area and still monitoring it, and we'll keep on updating you on this lion activity down on this side. In the same time, we're going to be sending you back over to Steve.
Welcome back to Chit, everybody, with a common green shank. one of our migratory birds that will be leaving soon. And there we go. He's on the little wall. Lovely to see. It's quite easily identified by sort of the whiteness of his body. And if you look closely, you notice that the beak is slightly upturned, or the bill beak. You call it what you like. We're departing now March, April, and feeds on aquatic insects, crustaceans, mollusks, and small fish. So these birds breed all the way up in Scotland. So in the broad belt across taiga and forest zones from Scotland to Kamchatka in Siberia. It's quite interesting. So they go a very, very long way. I'll be going and visiting my brother in Scotland soon. I wonder if I can send a package. My brother would like that little package. Brother lives in Edinburgh. So a lot of these birds that come down, a lot of these Palearctic migrants that we see, some of them are quite tricky to identify because they don't arrive here in breeding plumage. They arrive here in what we call eclipse plumage. There's no need for them to attract mates down here. They just come down for feeding, and then when they head up back north, that's when everything changes. So I've never seen many of these wonderful birds in. He's very busy, isn't he? He's not scared to get his face wet. That's probably why he's not in Scotland now, all over the Scottish summer, winter. Uh-oh. You see what's approaching on the bank here? Oh, it's all happening. Goodness me. We've got the Pied Kingfisher flying next to us. We've got a monitor lizard emerging out. The Pied Kingfisher's going to go into shot now. Look at this. Oh my goodness, it's all happening. What a wealth of activity. Oh my goodness. We are truly blessed. Oh, Tammy, well, you know, the African pitta is a bird I still haven't seen. Well, there's quite a lot of birds that we haven't been able to get on the show because they don't occur here. But a Pell's fishing owl on the show would be wonderful. And an African finfoot is a bird I haven't seen yet. African finfoot and African pitta are two birds I would really like to see. And if I got them on the show, well, goodness me, that would be quite something. There we go. He's landed on the side now. Are you going to? Are you going to try? It's just in the shallows here, but it's fine. Whatever floats your boat there, Mr. Mpo. There's so much going on. We've got the fish eagle up in the tree there. We've got a number of water bucks that are about to fight each other. There's a huge hierarchical system happening, and we got the monitor lizard who's come out of the water. Action is everywhere. What would we like to talk about? Let's talk about monitor lizards for a moment, shall we? He's like, me? You want to talk about me? Let me give you my good side. JP, they eat a wide variety of things. They're very good at eating eggs. Crocodile eggs, birds' eggs, monitor as well as rock lizard, rock monitor, are both very good at raiding nests. This particular type of monitor, the water monitor, is very good at messing with crocodile nests. Oh, looks like our Greenshank hasn't had enough yet. He wants to still be part of the party. But then also birds in nests, baby birds, smaller lizards as well. But they are carnivorous. They probably feed on even some frogs. I'm not certain. I've never seen one catch a frog. And very good swimmers. Very good climbers. He's being very alert. Bird of prey could come down and land on him. No, Leslie Ann, I'm way too smart for that. I don't go near them. They've got a very powerful tail, and I reckon it would hurt if they bit you, if they clawed you, if they hit you with the tail. So I leave them alone for the most part. If I don't have to handle animals, I don't. The only time I handle monitor lizards or snakes is if I have to get them out of a house. But I've learned to do techniques that require not having to touch them, which is a great way. Plastic tube works very, very well with a closed end and an open end, and you just put the open end of the plastic tube towards the face of a snake, and they generally go straight into the hole, and then you just pick it up. Many puff adders, spitting hoppers like that. And I got him out, and he didn't manage to hurt me, which was good. I was the hero of the day that day.
So what you see here is, of course, most of you will know, a golden Orb Web Spider. This one, I think, is actually a banded golden Orb Web Spider. Oh, don't blow into me. The wind is very strong now. All of a sudden, it picked up quite a lot. There's a beautiful picture of them because it's such a nice background. And you can really see the female, massive, fat female. She's been feeding well. It's near water, so it's a great place to catch lots of insects. So she's doing super well. Probably even maybe got a lot of eggs that she wants to lay very shortly. Then you've got the males, which are much, much smaller all around her. Multitudes of them, probably more than 10 males here, maybe even more than a dozen males here, because she's obviously got a very great spot. So this is a good chance for youngsters to grow up healthy and strong. So the males have chosen wisely. And then not only are there, the males are small, but there's also these very small silvery spiders that almost look like little metallic drops. And those are called dewdrop spiders. And actually filmed a very cool segment, must be months ago now, where we actually watched one dewdrop spider cutting some of the food out of the web, stealing, in essence. They are kleptoparasites, so they steal food from these large orb web spiders. But I always find it so amazing. Look at this one male who's just very carefully approaching this female, actually touching her top leg. Can you see that? She's just... Oh, he seems to be moving away now. I don't know what their courtship ritual is like, but you'll see many of these males are on the opposite side of the web to the females, because she will eat them if she feels that way inclined, if the male doesn't impress her. So I think the male probably has to release some sort of a pheromone that attracts her, and then maybe touch her in a certain way, or maybe make certain vibrations on the web that signals their intent. And usually they'll actually go to her when she's feeding so that she's distracted. What's amazing is that you don't normally get to see such clear views of them, which is really amazing. In fact, I can see a place where it looks like a dewdrop spider has actually stolen food from the web. I don't know if you can see there where I'm pointing. Just over there, there's a big hole in the web. And that is most likely where a dewdrop spider cut out some food stole it from this golden orb web, this female. When it's finished feeding on that, it'll literally suspend the food on its own little line. When it's finished feeding, it'll just drop that off the web and then go back to waiting. Amazing little spiders. So now these golden orbs are not particularly dangerous to us. They can bite and it's quite painful. I don't know if you can get a nice close-up view of that female's face, the head. You can see it's got these small pedipalps, which are parts of the mouth that help to bring the food in, and it's got quite a formidable set of pincers or fangs, which can inject a venom into us. It's not a very potent venom, but it's a venom nonetheless. But they're very, very unlikely to bite you. They're not aggressive spiders. In fact, most of the time they'll just try and get away. But you can imagine driving through the bush and one of these falls on you. It's quite a shocking experience. Starlight, probably as many as possible, to be honest. I don't know exactly how their physiology works. I don't know if she's able to keep some of that reproductive material and save it for later. Sorry, if you can hear a noise in the background, it's a train that's going past. It's on the outskirts of our property. Well, actually just outside, but it's very loud today because the wind is blowing directly to us. But probably as many males as possible will mate with her. She needs the best genetic material, so she'll probably let them all mate. Well, I actually don't know if she lets them mate or if it just kind of happens. Who knows with these kind of things? But yeah, it's probably a lot of them. I mean, there's at least 10 males on this web right now, so I suspect they've all tried to mate with her at some point or other. Bit of a waste if they did not, seeing that she seems to be a very successful female. I just wonder how sensitive it is with this wind blowing. Oh my goodness, it's going to blow straight into me. I'm not particularly afraid of spiders, but I don't like them to be on me, especially if I'm not expecting it. I've had a few experiences with these golden orbs, particularly on drive when you don't see the web and it falls on you. But the web's so strong. You can actually feel this right here where my finger is. This is where one of the main support lines is attached to the small, I don't know, it looks like a large fruited guari or grevia of some sort, like one of the raisins. But this line here feels like fishing line. It's thick and it's strong and powerful. In fact, I can almost pluck it like a guitar string. It's amazingly powerful. One of the strongest substances in the natural world. In terms of its tensile strength, meaning how flexible it is and how much you can stretch it and pull it before it breaks. In fact, I'm wearing a different shirt today. No, I actually collected some web from one of these orb webs that was abandoned, and I made a string out of it. We all pulled it. It was very strong. JD, just as I was explaining just now, it's got tensile strength, meaning that it's flexible and twistable, but still retains its ability to hold. They say, well, I don't know who says this, but I've read it before in many guidebooks, that if you could take a piece of this web material and make it as thick as a piece of rope, let's say, it would be strong enough to stop a jumbo jet in flight, just flying along, and it will just stop it dead straight because it's so strong. And I mean, there's many uses that I hear being researched for these things, and I need to actually do a bit more current research, but I see that they, thinking about things like body armor replacements. Instead of having Kevlar or steel plates, you'd have something made of this web material. But the problem is that it's just difficult to get as much as you need. I mean, you can't harvest it from nature because, first of all, it's contaminated by... Goodness, I hope that was a leaf and not a spider that just flew onto me. It's contaminated by all sorts of different things. There's lots of small spiders on it. You can't really harvest this. So they're trying to research it and find a way to synthesize it in a laboratory environment. So they just need to be able to research it more. And then it could be used for so many things. Things like surgeries, internal surgeries, something that's very strong and very small, very light, for surgeries on sensitive membranes in your body, maybe on your eyes, for example. I mean, there's so many uses. I've actually seen, I don't know if this is real, but I've seen a picture of a garment that was sewn, I suppose, out of the silk from spiders. It's golden in color, it's shiny, it's really amazing. I think it was in Madagascar that they did this. Really, really spectacular.
On the 27th of April, WildEarth will be turning 14 years old, and we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for all of you. And to celebrate, we will be finishing the beautiful book that we started last year that looks at the history so far. But we do need you to be part of it. Please submit your most memorable sighting, or what WildEarth means to you, or even just your name and a comment to be included inside the book. Head over to the website to add your name and reserve your copy. We are offering a 20% discount on all books bought before the end of March. And a big thank you to all of you who have contributed to the book so far.
Staying one step ahead is the key to survival out in the African wild. And now you can stay in front of the pack with a WildEarth weekly newsletter. Sign up to be a WildEarth explorer and you will get exclusive behind-the-scenes stories about your favorite guides and camera operators. Information about our upcoming plans and projects will be delivered to your inbox every week before anyone else. And you can hone your guiding skills by taking part in our Identify Me nature quizzes. WildEarth explorers, it's in your nature.
I love being a cam op for WildEarth. The animals coming right up close to you, especially like lions. Sometimes you get nervous, but you have to go with the flow. My favorite animal to film is the elephant because of how big it is. But when it's really up close to you, it's one animal that you would say, I really respect you.
What are you looking at, man? That's its gangster face. It has the manners of a common variety vagabond. Look at it chewing with its mouth open like that.
Welcome back to the Waterbuck Central this morning. Our monitor lizard ducked off back into the water, and our boys, who are probably quite concerned with the wind that you can hear pumping over the vehicle right now, is cause for concern when you are an animal that gets hunted by a lion. It's wonderful to see this batch of boys here, and hopefully they're going to push and shove each other a little bit more. So waterbuck males will only start to really compete for a territory at about the age of 6. Although they reach sexual maturity at 3. And once they reach 10, they're regarded as being past their prime, which is doesn't leave them long in the territorial seat. But a territorial male who has a territory will tolerate bachelor herds nearby, as I said before, because their eyes and ears, as long as they don't behave in any certain way or look at his ladies in any certain way, he's normally okay with them being there. But once they reach maturity, and as we often see those lone waterbuck bulls on their own, they will stay like that until they succumb to generally lion predation. There's not too much else that takes on the likes of a big waterbuck. So they'll only defend their territories against challengers. They won't actually do much against young bachelors. Now listen, where are the females indeed? Well, being in the height of the end of the rainy season, it's possible that a number of the females are secreted away with their little youngsters. They will be youngsters for a couple of weeks. We haven't actually seen too many females of late, and I haven't seen any baby waterbuck this season yet. They'll come out and about. But that bull is looking off into the distance. I just saw what I think was a baboon running. Impala's behind us, also looking towards where the baboon was running. We're just going to have a little stand with the binoculars and stay on the waterbuck, as we can't see anything at the moment. Moon dust? No, the females don't. It's only the males. Most of the woodland species that we'll find, the males have horns, females don't. That's because it's actually a disadvantage for females to have horns. They get caught up in the vegetation when they run, and their strategy of defending themselves or their youngsters is to hide. The males will often stand up against the predators with the horns, but mainly their horns are used for fighting and for territory against others of the same species. All seems to be quietening down here. Everything gets a bit edgy when it's windy like this, as we said on our approach to the dam. That's why you'll find animals like this coming out into the open, elevated ground, no surprises on the dam wall. They're probably going to go back into a bout of feeding now. There we go. Very water dependent, waterbuck. Will feed on the most green and juiciest of the grasses. Oh, he's going to lie down again. That was hard work. Beautiful vantage point there on the road.
Crash cuts. All right, wonderful. Sorry about those technical difficulties, but we're lucky. We just had turned up at this tree here, which is the weeping boybean, the one that we always sit under when we're filming from the vehicle, the one that we always have that view of the sunbirds and all the flowers and everything. As you can see here, the elephants have been using it frequently as a rubbing post. And in doing so, they have actually not quite completely ring barked. There's a tiny little bit of the bark on the other side, which is sending a little bit of nutrients up, which means the tree might survive. But as we talked about with the marula yesterday, now that this wood is exposed, it's quite a hard wood, much harder than marula, but it's likely that wood-boring insects are going to start attacking this thing. And then when they do that, they weaken it, they make it softer, and then eventually it'll fall down because of a strong wind. I don't know, Niels, if you'll be able to go that side, you might be able to see just how much of the tree has been barked. Can you see all the way around here? All the way around here. Just a small piece on the other side, which is still in, just going up here, which is still in contact. It's actually become so smooth. Look up here. There's a piece which is actually perfectly at the right height of an elephant's shoulder, and it's been. I'm going to actually try and see if I can put a bit of water on that. Watch out. You can see just how perfectly smooth and shiny that is. That is literally like a polished piece of wood that you might find in a furniture store. And Weeping Bourbon does have a beautiful grain. It's a dark wood with beautiful lines in it, as you can see there. So we should actually get these elephants to start polishing some of my furniture. It would look great. Yeah, so this tree will stay a long time. It's a hard wood. So some of the smaller branches will break down and collapse, but the main stem, this main trunk, will stay for a long time. I mean, it's fairly resistant to things. I mean, at the moment here, I can't see too many things that have been eating into it, although I've just seen something pretty awesome. I don't know, Niels, if you'll be able to get really up close there. There's a little bit of eggs there from some sort of an insect, maybe a moth, maybe a wood borer. I doubt it's a wood borer, but you can just see those tiny little eggs there, and I believe those look like they might have already hatched. They look like they're hollow, but it's so tiny, I can't really even see them up close from even with my face 6 inches away. The elephants were right here this morning. They came right past here to feed and drink in the dam and to feed on the vegetation along the wall there. So we walked just over there, and that's where we walked this morning. And then we actually had to move out the way because the elephants came. Then we watched them from the other side of the dam. So you can see here, this is a small sickle bush, and that's on the other side of the dam, that small Tamboti Island. And that's where we were standing just on the opposite side of that when the other elephants arrived. So we're quite certain that more elephants are going to come to this area. So we're actually making our way away from the waterhole. Oh, I know that we're having some sort of communications breakdown. I think that there's a question maybe if you could try and repeat that. Just struggling to hear you a little bit. I don't know if it's just maybe the wind that's picked up all of a sudden. It's making it quite tricky. Oh, Marilyn, you're asking whether the tree produces something to protect itself from being destroyed by the elephants. So actually, one of the things they do produce, I was going to show you in this pile of elephant dung. So I don't know if you can notice the color of this dung here is got a slightly yellowy, maybe almost an orangey sort of color. Especially if I open it up a small piece here. I don't know if you can see that. It's got like a yellowy color. So that is something called tannin. Now, there's not a lot of tannin in this right now because most of what was eaten by these elephants recently is grasses, but there'll invariably be a little bit of leaf material in there, and the leaves produce tannins. Well, the tree produces tannins that it puts in its leaves, and that's very bitter. So you'll find that elephants will feed on a tree for a certain amount of time, maybe 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes, and then they'll move away from the tree, and you'll often be left thinking, oh, why on earth did it leave the tree? There's still a ton of leaves on there. Why did it leave? Because the tree starts pumping tannins into its extremities, into the branches, into the leaves, and it starts to taste very bitter. And in fact, tannin can be toxic and can kill animals if it's in very high quantities. And the elephants know that, so they will literally leave the tree alone eventually. There's not as many tannins in the bark itself, but of course, in pushing these tannins up and down around the tree, it has to travel up the cambium layer, which is that inner layer of the bark, the one that transports the nutrients. In fact, I'll show you it right now in this tree. So I don't know if you can see just underneath this mud. This is the outer layer. This is where the protective part of the bark is, covered in mud. But on the inner layer here, this is what we call the cambium. And you can see even sap and things are leaking down this cambium, which is what the elephants are after. But the sap can also contain the tannins when it's transporting these up and down. So absolutely, Marilyn, they can protect themselves, but it's a slow process. Of course, it's not just chemical defense, but some trees can have a physical defense as well, like the knob thorn, the knobbly bark, and thorns from all the exacacias, the vachelias and the senegalias. So certainly trees have many types of defense. And look at this here. I actually want to show you something really interesting. So we've got a really good, this part of the bark here is one of the rings, and just over here is another one of the rings. And this is where one season's growth was. You can see that. This is one season's growth just on the outside here. Now again, I know you're sending us, well, we're sending you to someone else who's on a bumble. I'm not sure who it is, but let's find out.
So we've decided to come to the other side of this block, actually down further back towards this road we have actually covered and driven on this morning. And just because we could see there's more activity actually pointing towards the southern edges, as these lions could have actually pushed through towards where that animals was walking. And as we came back to our own tracks that we've driven on this morning, this road that we started up with this morning, and actually we spoke about this area specifically with the sweet grasses. When we did that grass presentation just earlier on this morning, it's actually the exact same block that we are driving through here at the moment. And the thing is that it does look like these lions have traveled much further south. Reasoning behind it is that we could actually see the red hartebeest tracks running across the road here. So the meaning is that lions have moved further south. And the possibilities are, let me just have a look at something here. You can see something in the grass there. Got some tumbleweed coming through. If we get a cool example of it, that one is a bit far. But if we get a good example, I'll show you actually what tumbleweed looks like. But anyways, I thought it's actually ears of what looked like an aardwolf maybe sticking out of the grass there. Anyways, so yes, a lot of animals are running across the road here on top of our tracks, so which is meaning those lions were walking south through this block by the time we were on the tracks on the northern end of this block actually. So yeah, at the same time we're going to just keep on going south here and see if we do get their tracks. Maybe we get the lions actually coming across the road in front here as well. But on the other hand, it's just so gorgeous driving through this area this morning with all of this stunning scenery coming through with these grasses in this environment. And also there's a crazy amount of birds and bird life active with this morning light coming up, as there's a lot of nutritional value still this time of the morning in especially the inflorescence of the grasses and so. And the thing is that lots of these, especially what you call granivores, from the small birds in the area to all of them eating on seeds. Amber, you're asking what other animals would be hiding in this grass? You would find most of the time animals like the steenbok. You could easily find there's more tracks of red hartebeest and oryx that came across here just now. You would find also like common duiker, which we've been battling to see actually lately, due to the fact is that we've been having situations where the grass has been so long and so tall in certain areas that you just can't see them. Now the common duiker is a small jumping antelope that you find. It's actually called a duiker because of the jumping motion that it's making actually. So it jumps and it dives and it jumps and it dives. And that comes from having its name from the Afrikaans version being duiker, meaning diver. So it jumps and it dives, and it jumps and it dives. So from that point of view, you can also find a huge amount of rodent life in this environment, as there's quite a lot of microhabitats in certain areas of the dune fields, and these microhabitats are existing with a huge amount of rodent life that comes across in certain areas and so on. And that obviously allures and attracts the African wildcat, caracal, as well as the Cape silver fox and all sorts of animals like that. So it's really cool actually thinking about the different life that you could find from small to big all the way through in these grasses. But yes, it is, because it's so tall and the grasses are so dense, it is a bit of a difficult one actually to see all of these small critters at the moment. And in doing so, I mean, it's quite nice to do a bushwalk every now and again in certain areas. Obviously where the grasses are not too dense though, because if it becomes too dense, then it becomes dangerous to be on foot as well in these areas. I mean, you never know if you're going to walk into a lion. I mean, we've been in a situation lately that we've been driving through certain areas, and we've literally come across animals lying right next to the road where we've been walking, or in certain spots in the bush where we've been trailing, and you suddenly come across, like that pack of wild dogs I found yesterday when we were trailing on their tracks. And so, yes, I was trailing for a good, like I said, a kilometer on those tracks, and I found them about 20 meters in front of us. And so, yeah, there's a lot of surprise factors that happens with this dense vegetation. It's not always just the bush, but also the grasses around the area. So we're going to continue looking to see if these tracks of this lioness haven't come across here, or hopefully finding them on the road, because they have traveled further south. Meanwhile, we're going to send you back over to Tswalu with the dam cam.
Well, Ewan, it's the exact thing that I'm hoping for here. That's something that's lurking in the grass, hiding. You know how good animals are and hiding in the grass. So that's why I'm waiting. Maybe I'll get a little ear flick or tail lift, something to indicate that there's an animal around. So far, we've just been seeing some birds on the dam cam. Couple blacksmith lapwings. Let's have a look and see if they're still around. They were at the little pan here. Ah, there we go. Thank you for sticking around, lapwings. You can really see how windy it is. Steve was saying it was windy to you. I was saying to you guys that it's really windy. Certainly is. But at least the lapwings seem to be fairly happy mulling about in the grass there. So they're busy foraging, and they'll be looking for little insects there. Hi Maverick, you have an excellent question. You'd like to know if the change in season will affect animal behavior. It will, to an extent. The change in our seasons here in Southern Africa is not very drastic. So there's not a huge disparity between temperatures. It's more whether it's dry or wet that matters to us. And because our wet season was so fruitful the last 2 seasons, this year there may not be too much of behavior change in the animals. But one of the things that we will notice is that water sources, all these kind of impermanent water sources, side of the road, little pans, things like that, all of those will dry up. So you'll have more animals actually coming to the dams to drink, to bathe, have a bit of fun, to cool down. The animals will come to the dams. And also because in the dry season there's less rain, we expect that they'll need to drink in the dams. But like I said, because the water table is quite high at the moment because of our last 2 seasons, that may not be the case this time round. The other thing that can change is the feeding behavior of some animals, particularly herbivores. Again, it's not really applicable for this coming dry season because we've had such good rains. But normally after the dry season, vegetation becomes so tanniny, it becomes dry, and all those tannins are a way for the tree and the vegetation, particularly trees, grasses don't do this, but trees will produce more tannins and other chemicals that will deter animals from eating it, and that's because they're trying to survive themselves. They may only have a few leaves left to photosynthesize with, and herbivores are going to eat it. So they increase the tannins in their leaves as a way to deter herbivores from eating them. And in the dry season, you'll find that herbivores will start to change their behavior and end up eating leaves that they wouldn't ordinarily, such as tambuti or silver cluster leaf. Those are all very unpalatable, or rather less palatable than, say, the leaves of buffalo thorn or any of the combretums. So then you'll have that type of behavioral change, but that type of behavioral change can be fatal. 2 years ago, we saw a number of herbivores, nyalas, bushbuck, that had just keeled over and died, and that's because of malnutrition. So what ends up happening is when they eat these leaves that are very tanniny, it affects how their digestion occurs and how much nutrients can be absorbed particularly. So they end up eating and feeling full, but in fact they're not absorbing any nutrients, and they end up dying. And that's one of the things that you end up seeing in the dry season. That's very sad. But I expect that won't happen this year, and it didn't happen last year either. So I think we're in for a much more abundant dry season than we were the last 2 years ago.
Our lives are dictated by alarm clocks, traffic jams, constant multitasking, and countless distractions. The wilderness is where many of us feel the most human. On a bushwalk, we become part of the natural landscape. As you step off the vehicle, everything comes alive. As with any risky experience, walking amongst these animals inspires awe and appreciation. Now, it's your turn to go on a bushwalk. Join us from Pride Lands as we slow down our thoughts, put aside our distractions, and reconnect with a place that first taught us how to be human. WildEarth explorer Jenny recently joined Tristan as he broadcast live from Djuma.
Awesome to kind of have a guest on board. I'm looking forward to this. This is Jenny.
Hi everyone.
And Jenny is the first of our Ticket to Dream holders.
If you want to go on safari with a WildEarth guide whilst honing your bush knowledge and of course featuring in one of our shows, then head over to our website.
Literally being with Tristan on the vehicle today has been incredible. It has truly been a dream come true.
Sign up to be a WildEarth explorer and you could be making your first ever on-screen appearance.
I would highly recommend being a part of the Explorer program and being able to be a part of an interactive live drive.
My name is Taylor McCurdy and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on WildEarth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the live safari page and submit your questions below the live.
Alright, so we walked away from that boerbean and we're just heading to the western side of Leopard Dam, and we're walking along game paths because the grass is very long now, and we came across a very awesome track here. So that track there is of a rather large animal. You can see the track is the size of my hand, so I wanted to find out if you the viewers could tell me what track could this possibly be. It's about the size of my hand, if you can't see it super clearly. And it's definitely got two distinct halves. There's one half there and another half there. Now, it's nothing to do with this dung, which is over here, which is elephant dung. That is something separate. And there's more dung just a bit further down that's giraffe dung. It's not that either. So what could it be possibly? You're welcome to tell me. But it's one of the reasons why we have to be quite wary as we walk up and down these game paths, especially close to water holes like this. Many animals are using them, and some we have to be particularly vigilant of. So what could possibly have been that track there? Now you see the game path heads down towards the water, and there's probably some mud wallows there, which are potentially something that this animal likes to use quite frequently. Of course, it feeds on grass as well. It's a rather large animal. So there's the track once again. You can see that's the back of the track there. That's the front. It's quite wide. It's about that big, that wide. Sandy, absolutely. That is the track of a buffalo. And it's most likely a male buffalo, which are specifically the ones that we have to be very careful of, because they are big and they're likely to make decisions very quickly. Are they going to run away from us or run towards us? Depends how close we get to them. So Sandy, well done. I would like you to join me on some of these walks so that you can help to keep me safe from these hairy, scary beasts. But anyway, I'll show you these other tracks that we've got here, or other signs. There's some giraffe dung here. The reason why we know it's giraffe dung is because it's quite well spread out. When giraffes are walking, when they defecate, they drop their pellets from quite a high area. And so you can see they spread out all the way on one side of this little patch of a game path, all the way to the other. And they're rather large. That's quite a big pellet. You can see it's probably about the size of my thumb. You can see there's quite a decent sized pellet. An impala dropping is more bullet-shaped, I suppose you'd say, and it's definitely only about half the size, maybe even less. A kudu's droppings look very similar to this, but the kudu's droppings will normally be much closer together, not so spread out, because they're, of course, only about half as tall as a giraffe is. And also, it's slightly more elongated, also more bullet-shaped, like the impala. So that's really awesome. And there's some more elephant dung just behind here, which is slightly fresher. You can see it's still moist on the inside there. So a lot of animals using this area. So yes, with this thicket area, we're actually going to walk through this thicket here, and then we sort of decided that it's probably not a good idea to walk through that with this buffalo's tracks. Glenn, you're asking what food do elephants more efficiently digest? That's a good question, because at different times of the year, they're eating different things. Now, at this time of the year, elephants are mostly eating the grass, because that's what's still green and it's what's still soft. And of course, they only have an efficiency of about 40%, which means 60% of what they eat comes out the other side completely undigested. But that is only when they're eating tougher materials. When they're eating something like grass, which is easy to crush and break down and digest, grass is more often used. I see Caroline looking into the thickets there. All's fine? Okay. We know there's a buffalo somewhere around here. But yes, so grass is what they're eating mostly, because that is the stuff which is easy to digest. So you can see there, especially with the wind picking up, we definitely made the right choice not to walk in there, because that's quite thick, and it's exactly the kind of place where buffaloes or elephants might go and shelter as it gets windier this afternoon and as it gets a bit warmer. So we're going to keep it that way. I'm not going to walk along this path or into there. Keep moving away. Waterhole. In fact, it's getting warmer now, so we might actually head up the crest a little bit into some of the open areas and then make our way back towards where we left our vehicle. And you never know what's going to be walking up the drainage line towards the dam. Right, so we're going to send you over in the meantime, whilst we make our way back towards the vehicle, to Trishala, who's still on the dam cam.
Oh, I can't wait till I get to make my way back to my vehicle. She's getting sorted out. So hopefully we'll be back in action this afternoon at least. And for now, I'm quite enjoying this dam cam, or controlling the dam cam. Makes me feel like I'm playing a game of some sort. A find the animal game. Well, at the moment there's not too much going on. Our lapwings have left and our one dove has left. But I can hear some francolins in camp. I think they must have seen Marcel. Oh, there we go. I love watching them. They're often at near dams. Hi Tabo, you would like to know why their legs are so skinny. That's because they are birds that you find near water, and the birds that you find near water are usually skinny-legged, tall and skinny-legged, and that's so that they can wade through the water without having to wet their feathers and lose heat. That's the other reason that their legs are skinny. So there's less surface area for them to lose heat to. That's also one of the theories as to why birds would stand with one leg up. You know, sometimes like a flamingo, one leg is down, keeping them steady, the other leg is up. One of the theories is that that would help them to retain body heat, because remember, those legs, there's no feathers on those legs. So it's just perfect skin for it to be losing heat to. And also birds are small. Birds do have an average body temperature that is higher than our own, but still they're also very tiny, so they lose heat quicker. But also, if you ever owned anything that is down, you'd know that those feathers are an excellent, excellent source of insulation. And you wouldn't want to get those feathers wet, because then they're not doing their job. So if you have nice tall legs, you can keep dry. Hi Lindsay, you'd like to know how much of an effect does the wind have on the bird's ability to fly? So what wind is a change in pressure. So you can go from an area of low pressure to high pressure, or there's a transition transition happening, which will cause this turbulence in the air, which is what we see and feel as wind. It does affect a bird's flight, but not as much as you may think, because obviously a bird is completely adapted to flight. In fact, that it will affect it, but not very much. So imagine if you had to ask that question in a different sense, or for a different animal, and say, how much does the wind affect us walking? Right? If it's really windy, it is going to affect us walking. I've been in really, really, really windy places a couple of times, and you actually get pushed over by the wind. Given I'm not the biggest human being, but I have been pushed over, especially in places like Cape Town. You can really get pushed over and the wind will affect your walking. But it would have to be quite substantial gusts for that to happen. Similarly, with birds, they're so well adapted to flight, and picking the right times to fly and making sure that they're not going to put themselves into a position where they're not going to get anywhere because of the wind. Just like we wouldn't start walking down the road if we can see that it's so gusty outside that we're not going to get anywhere. But I'm using us as an example because we have been using our legs to walk around for many, 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 many hundreds of years, thousands of years. So we're used to doing that. And even though the wind might affect us, we are good at knowing when to walk and when not to with regards to the wind. In the same way, birds can do the same thing. So you may be able to see birds getting pushed by the wind, But also remember, wind doesn't happen all over the air at the same time. It happens in pockets and in belts, so they may be able to move above the wind, they'll be able to move below the wind and find that sweet spot for them to fly in. Also, the birds rely on the pressure in the air to be able to create flight. So that's why when it's a very low pressure system, that's this like a stormy system, weather system, birds will fly less. You'll see them perched quite a bit because it's more difficult for them to fly. The pressure is very low. Anna Marie, you'd like to know if any of the migratory birds have left yet? I can't be certain. It might just be that I haven't seen them. I can tell you, Anna Marie, that I most definitely am still seeing woodland kingfisher. I'm still seeing European bee-eaters. I'm still seeing European rollers. What else have I still been seeing? That's the ones I can think of right now that I most definitely am still seeing and glad to see them. But we'll see for how long that stays that way. I feel as if the wind might be picking up. I'm sure Steve will let you know how it's going. He's been at Chitwa, and I've always found that if it's windy at Djuma, it's extra windy at Chitwa. Hi, Heather. You'd like to know how often would the elephants come to have a drink at the dam? As often as they can. They will go every day with drinking at least once. And that's desperate times, because if they can drink more than that, they most definitely will. Let's do a bit of investigating here. Oh, that's just a branch. It's like just on drive. You think you see something and then you don't. It's just a log or a branch or a bush. Elephants do the most satisfying jig as they get down to the water. We've spoken about it before, where they're so excited. So I'd love to see them come down, and it's very likely that they would, because we just answered that question about the fact that they would drink very often as they can. The only thing is now, and then also relating back to the question about changing seasons, the only thing is that they don't especially need to come to the dam. They can pretty much go anywhere to have a drink. Any drainage, any bump in the road that's filled with water, that's all they need. I still wish, often we used to get pictures of images of leopards on the dam wall. Oh, I see something. I want to find a leopard walking on the dam wall. Looks like I've got an impala here. Hello, impala. A nice impala ram crossing the dam wall. Sometimes I think of the dam wall as a bit of like a catwalk, especially if there's a leopard in it or on it. No, it's an antelope walk. I got a question there from Andrew. Hi, Andrew. I'm not sure. It was about an elephant's trunk, but I'm not sure exactly what. And we have a bird here. What is this bird? Ah, how much water can an elephant's trunk hold? Thank you, Andrew, for your question. An elephant's trunk can hold about 12 to 15 liters of water. Just on its own. So that's how much it can dunk into its mouth in one go. Isn't that amazing? Let's go check out this bird. Thanks, Impala. Ooh! It's a pair of hammerkops. That's so sweet. I don't often see them in a pair. That's nice. I often just see them one hanging out on its own. Oh, this is so sweet to see a pair like that. I'm just going to grab that viewer's name again. But it was about where the lapwings... Marjo, you'd like to know where do the lapwings sleep at night? What do they do at night? They're on the ground. They're ground nesters. They don't have any type of other routine. You'll kind of see them even in the ground, on the ground as opposed to in the ground. Hopefully not in the ground. In little they make little depressions, and then they kind of huddle up there. Now, not all water birds do that. Many of them roost in trees, like Egyptian geese will go up into the trees, storks, etc. But these guys, the blacksmith lapwings, they hang out quite a lot on the ground. Wow, I think the camera might be shaking from the wind, because I'm not doing that. Wow, it must be very, very windy out there. Alright, well, I'm going to send you over to Huan on a Bumble, and hopefully I'll be able to find something else here on the dam cam.
So, on the northwestern corner of the block, we've had her tracks coming out, so she must have made a bit of a nice bend through from those animals coming back up north, and we've had the tracks now obviously coming through to these mountains that you see in front of us here. So we are on a very old road driving over here, and so the thing is that as we're driving in this area, we're going to constantly look and see if we can catch her on the front end here, because the thing is, it looks like she's aiming for a bush here somewhere that she's looking to settle in this position where we're at the moment. So what I'm actually going to do is, at this point where we're at the moment, we've had the tracks at the base edge of the mountain here, and the tracks were coming through the edge as it was walking on the edge of the rocks, and so this is already about another 2 kilometers north of that block that you've seen us last at, and so these tracks have been walking all along the the road here off towards the edge of the mountain. So what I wanted to do is now we just going to keep quiet a bit, because as I was mentioning earlier, the possibilities are that we might actually hear these cubs suckling or moaning moaning at her ears as they're at a resting position at this time of the day now, because it's now getting warmer. And so we're just going to keep quiet a bit and just listen, and then just try to hear if we can't hear anything happening, because I've seen these lionesses at this particular given point before, where they like to actually relax and sleep, taking a good resting spot. So for about a good 2 minutes or so, we're going to just keep the voice down and also at the same time absorb the natural sounds. Boy, oh boy, and that is a silent sound. Can you believe it? So that you can see why in such a wilderness environment like this, how you can find animals through audio also sometimes, just because of the silent, beautiful beauty. Oh, stunning flowers in this area, as well as BK is following up on the thunderbolt flower there. Anyways, we're going to keep on going and see if we can follow this mountain's edge. Keep on going on these tracks and we'll keep you updated. We're going to send you back over to a stunning sighting in the waterhole that's just been found.
Welcome back to Djuma, everybody. Well, something Trish wanted to see. This elephant's coming down to the water, and here we are, twin dams. It's a lovely breeding herd. There were a few bulls before. We had to reposition because it seemed like we weren't getting any signal. Now everything seems fine. Let me just move up an inch or two there. Very relaxed herd. You see it just chased that blacksmith lapwing. Elephants are so funny. listen, I can't give you a number there because each herd is different in size. And by the time bulls reach 14 to 16, they get pushed out. So it's really hard to say. I mean, probably 50% of the youngsters are male and 50% are female. That's just a guess. So when you see a group like this, it could be 2 or 3 youngsters, maybe 4, depending on the size, really. But then you've always got the young bulls that follow, that are not really included in the herd. You can see them on the dam wall there. Bulls have just arrived. They are not part of the herd. They're just following. But then there are a few little floaters. So, you know, the dynamics shift and change. You suddenly get more individuals moving in, and here comes a nice big bull on the dam wall. Everybody's going to move out of his way. Oh, how blessed is this? Okay, Mama, we see you there. But essentially, herds are made up of females and their calves. Hannah, well, definitely not dog years, that's for sure. Elephants and humans have very similar life cycles, very similar development stages, very similar care. And so an old elephant, 65, what kills them eventually is their teeth. I suppose if we didn't have dentists, we'd probably also, and the ability to make smoothies, we'd probably also deteriorate quite quickly from that age on. I know that 100 years ago, 150 years ago, I think the average life expectancy of the human population was a lot less than it is today. Ooh, I can smell a bull in must. There's the one on the wall there. Can smell him. He's going to come in and cause all sorts of drama here. Oh, he's an impressive bull. He's going to come down the wall in a moment or walk on the wall. Now, just bear in mind that we've done nothing. So if the herd dynamic changes, it's all got to do with him. Now he's coming in the back there. Oh, he's a big boy. Oh, yes. Oh, you smell him, Paul. Oh, this is the fellow I had on Purvosuk boundary recently, with that very worn down left tusk. He's a beautiful bull. Look at this, eh? Okay, well, we're going to stay right here. We're not going anywhere. I'm going to send you over to Mike.
So we wrapped up at Leopard Dam and we started to make our way back to HQ, our base. And Niels had a great idea to come and check on the dung ball that we were watching being buried yesterday afternoon. I think it was yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday afternoon. And now we've come here and we've actually found where it was being buried. So here, beautifully covered, is where the dung ball... Remember, we actually left it because we said it was taking a long time and it looked quite tricky. This dung beetle was very persistent and managed to bury the whole dung ball and then cover it with soil to keep it protected and moist. How incredible is that? I don't know how long it took, but it probably took over an hour to do that. So for a tiny beetle, well, it's not tiny, but for a beetle, it's very persistent. And what's even more amazing is when you look at the surrounding environment here, it's very hard, the ground. I mean, I've got a stick here, and I can tap the ground, and it does not even break the surface. It's very, very tough. And so this dung beetle was only able to do that because of the fortunate event that some other animal just over here stepped on the ground, whether it was a kudu, a giraffe, or whatever it was, and broke that hard crust and able to make the soft sand underneath the dung beetle could then dig into. So it's really, really cool, very awesome. And now that was a big dung ball. It was probably almost the size of a tennis ball. And so for it to have been able to dig a hole big enough to bury that whole tennis ball-sized piece of dung and then cover it with soil and then fly off and probably start the process all over again is really spectacular. Wonderful to see. And now with that loose sand on the outside of that dung ball, it will actually, as the dung starts to dry, it will accumulate and it will harden into a thick crust, which is what we often find that has been excavated by things like honey badgers. Honey badgers seem to be specialists at digging up dung beetle nuptial balls. So you'll often find a hollow, looks like a clay pot that's been hollowed out, and it's quite small, maybe the size of hold it in your hand. That's the dung beetle ball that's now either pupated or it's been eaten. Kim, aged 7, you are asking the important questions. How long does the dung ball stay in the ground? Well, I guess as long as it needs to pupate. Now, I don't know the exact time frames that it takes for a dung beetle to change into from a larvae, from an egg to a larvae to an adult, but can probably take some weeks, can probably take some months even, who knows, maybe even years. I know there are some insects that will remain in their larvae stage for years and years. Now, because the dung beetle doesn't have an infinite amount of food, it just has that one dung ball to feed on, I don't think it stays there for years and years. I think it probably stays there for maybe at most a month or two, and then it will emerge like a butterfly, except it's not a butterfly, it's a beetle, fully formed as an adult, which is super cool. Good question, though. Many other animals will stay a lot longer in their pupa, their juvenile stage. In fact, if I could see one right now, I would like to point one out, but I cannot see an antlion larvae. The antlion larvae that makes those little cone pits that ants fall into and then they catch them, that can remain for about 7 or 8 years as a larvae in the ground. So that's pretty fantastic. But you can see all of this area behind me. This is all a grassy area right now, but this is normally just completely barren and bare. It's only because we've had such great rains this year that this whole area is covered. So I'm sure if we went roving around through there, we might find some antlion larvae, but right now it will be very difficult. As we mentioned before, all these grasses, you know, these are all pioneers that take over these areas. So we've even got some of this stuff right next to me over here. If I can show you, I don't know if you can see up close there, Niels, it's got these sort of spiky things on the side. And if I use my fingers to pull them out, they easily come out, and these stick into our socks. And they also stick into the fur of animals. They get stuck between their hoofs, all sorts. And that allows them to be able to be spread. And remember, pioneers don't live very long. They just live for a season. They're just there to spread their seeds, basically. They don't make a lot of material. Many animals don't eat this because it's not have a lot of leaves and good tasty stuff. But certainly doing its job, stabilizing the soil.
Our lives are dictated by alarm clocks, traffic jams, constant multitasking, and countless distractions. The wilderness is where many of us feel the most human. On a bushwalk, we become part of the natural landscape. As you step off the vehicle, everything comes alive. As with any risky experience, walking amongst these animals inspires awe and appreciation. Now, it's your turn to go on a bushwalk. Join us from Pride Lands as we slow down our thoughts, put aside our distractions, and reconnect with a place that first taught us how to be human. With a slew of potential dangers lurking, it's essential to be aware of your surroundings whilst walking in the wilderness.
20 yards away from one of the most endangered species. This is a big bull.
What a moment, what a close encounter with an Ellie bull. He's just over here now. He's moved completely away.
Being on a bushwalk and seeing a leopard, I mean, it's ridiculous to be this close to a leopard on foot and for him not to run is absolutely insane. How crazy was that?
Through the gap there is just the back of the head of a male lion. He is absolutely unaware that we are here right now. I'll tell you, seeing lions on foot, it definitely brings out the caveman in you, this little scared human being.
My name is Taylor McCurdy and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on WildEarth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the live safari page and submit your questions below the live.
Welcome back, everybody. So we have come to this block's southern end as well, as it does appear that they have crossed even further down south. Oh, a couple of Namakwa sandgrass that just flew out here as well. So I just wanted to, earlier on, we actually looked at a few sandgrass on the road. And as I just seen these ones flying out here, that was pretty cool actually. So that was actually a different species, but just showing you quickly here, looking at the book, that was the birchal sandgrass that we looked at earlier. And as I was saying, basically when they're nesting, it's actually quite interesting seeing how they make use of certain areas deliberately for water resources around, because the female would be sitting on a nest with the eggs and the chicks and so on, and generally then it gets to a point that the male go off to the water points and they would land in the water and then soak up the water with their breast feathers, these feathers over here that you're basically looking at, and then the male would fly with that water all the way back to the actual nest where the female is at with the chicks in the nest. And they would drink from his breast feathers or so. Very, very interesting seeing that. But this is the one, you can see the iconic grey head that we've been looking at earlier on. But then also looking at the double-banded sandgrass. So this one comes into waterholes about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning in the Kalahari. This one is the double-banded sandgrass. So this is the crepuscular one. This is the one that comes mostly at just during sunset or just after sunset or so. You see the very iconic double bands that you get there, and then also you get the Namakwa sandgrass. So the two common ones that you find is these two, but then you get the double banded sandgrass in the evening. So these two comes through in the mornings to water points, whereas this one in the evenings. So yeah, just wanted to complete that sentence. Literally is what we looked at, and we had a few actually flying out from this spot. But yeah, we're going to continue looking for these lions for the rest of this morning. Driving this block even when we say goodbye to you guys, and so we're gonna just see if we can't continue looking for this lioness as she's taken us all the way down the road here for most of the morning. So yeah, then the thing is that we can see if we can't find her maybe for the afternoon, and so that we could possibly come back here this evening and hopefully we could show you some lion cubs, but we'll update you this afternoon through that. Don't forget to join us for this afternoon's sunset safari. As I've been saying to you, we're going to continue looking for these lions and yeah, see what we can get to do down there. So yeah, Central African time from 3:30 till 7:30 in the evening, and we'll see what we can get to do with regards to finding these different animals. But yeah, it will be very special to having you be having you joining us for this evening's drive as well. So yeah, please come and join us for another beautiful sunset African safari.